Radio London, as well as playing their jingles, Pam Series 18, they were also playing edits of other demos that they got. And on Radio London, I'd heard this one.
Big Bill. It's a blast!
So I started to think, hey, that's the same, that's a different backing track. Yeah, we'll change to the Radio England picture on here, that's the Radio England station. So I thought, well, wait a minute, syndication. You know, they obviously sing the same, different lyrics over the same backing tracks. There was nobody to ask, you had to find it all out yourself. So that's the first indication I had that there was such a thing as syndication. This station was really, really interesting. As a matter of fact, they're having a 40th anniversary reunion next Friday down in London, which I'm going to, which is for everybody from Radio England and the other station it had on that ship called Britain Radio. This was an amazing thing for the 1960s. 2 stations were on this ship, 2 separate stations. One was what they called in those days a top 40 station, and one was an easy listening station. The easy listening station was a station called Britain Radio. And they also had jingles as well, again from Pam's. If you know the package, it's the Smart Set, and they sounded like this.
The bright sounds of the Smart Set. Mark of quality, Britain Radio.
Again, very interesting jingles, big band sound, wasn't into that then, but I knew they sounded good. Funnily enough, actually, about 2 or 3, 4 years ago, Saga came along, and they were saying, we want a Sinatra-style jingle. And I sort of rewound all the tapes in my head and suddenly thought, that Smart Set cut. Perhaps we could do that with somebody who sounds a bit, you know, has a Sinatra style in singing, and we actually re-sang it for Saga, which is the next track.
Saga 106.6 FM.
You probably don't recognise the voice, but the session singer that we use, which is a London session singer, is actually the singer behind Postman Pat. So anyway, you know, jingles live on if you let them. Radio England was particularly, that's why my name is England, by the way. I named myself after the station. I was looking for a name when I became a disc jockey, and I thought I'd name myself on my famous station. So, you know, anybody who's thinking of going into disc jockeying could call yourself Key 103 or something like that. This station was real interesting. When they played Series 27, there was a couple of things happened. First of all, Radio London, the other station, had been playing edits of it, so it kind of sounded like they were stealing their jingles. And Caroline, who never had any Dallas jingles, they were from a different background, despite the fact that the B Amigo actually was originally financed and everything as Radio Sid from Texas. That's where the transmitters came from and where the backing came from. But Radio Caroline didn't have any jingles from America. So what they did was, during the test transmissions of Radio England, they recorded the jingles. This is piracy, remember? They recorded the jingles, edited Caroline in the middle, and started putting them out. Well, of course, they were furious. They were furious. And they were being accused of copying Caroline. So that meant that they really wanted to get a new package of jingles. So they came up with a package from another Dallas company, and at this time there were several Dallas companies operating. You probably know some of them. Spot Productions was one. And this is the package they came up with, which was based on the That Man package. They had to sing That Man rather than Batman, because that would get past the copyright problem. And this is the package, the That Man package.
Johnny Walker on swinging Radio England.
And if anybody has a perfect copy of that, you have the Golden Chalice, because nobody has that complete set of the Spot Productions That Man package in really, really first-rate quality. Even that is an inter-edit between the demo and I think an off-cart recording. Johnny Walker, very interesting. I don't know if you know the story of Johnny Walker and how he got his name, but his real name is Peter Dingley. Well, not really a sort of DJ name, is it? So he called himself Peter D, thinking that that would be more of a DJ name when he was in the clubs. He came originally from Birmingham, although you can't tell it from his accent now. And Roger Day, who you know, I'm sure you know from Piccadilly, was hired first by Radio England. And he was told, Peter Dingley was told, you'll have to change your name. Simon, we've got Simon D, you've got Roger Day, you've got Peter D. That, you know, Peter D, Roger Day sound very similar, and it also D. There's been a Simon D, so you've got to change your name. So one of the disc jockeys from radio who'd come over from America was a guy called Larry Dean. His real name is Frank Lasseter, and he brought over a tape from the station he'd worked on, which was WPTR, and he played all these jingles of disc jockey name checks to Johnny Walker and said, well, you know, we've got all these disc jockeys, why don't you name yourself after one of the jocks at WPTR, then you can have one of the jingles. And so Larry Dean played him this jingle here now.
He's in!
Johnny Walker.
He's on!
He said, I love that name. And from then onwards, he was Johnny Walker. He's changed his name by default to Johnny Walker now, so he really is Johnny Walker. As I say, you know, the information was really hard to get in those days on anything. And it was Johnny Walker who I was doing his anniversary show on Radio Caroline, and I was listening to it, and he said, he played his jingle, he said, that was made by Pam's in Dallas, and that's the first time I'd ever heard where these things came from. And it sounded like some girl's name, you know, some girl called Pam, that she was making these things. But that's how I heard first of Pam's. As I say, you couldn't find these things. There was no Google. You know, you couldn't go to your library. They didn't know about it. Who could you ask? Nobody knew. So those days were very, very different. You know, all you had was record players, transistor radios, and reel-to-reel tape recorders. That's all there was. No iPods, no DAPs, no, you know, CDs, no cassettes even at that stage. It was really interesting during the 1960s because as the stations came, because Radio England came along with That Man, Radio London then went and bought another package. They bought Pam Series 31, which you know is the Music Explosion, and they bought this.
More music on Big L. Big L, the London sound. Wonderful music means BITL.
Well, the government really did have it in. Tony Benn, who was one of the main guys who set up the law to prevent the pirates, on August the 14th, 1967, most of the pirates closed down. Caroline carried on for a little while, being tendered from Holland, but through until 1968. But 1967, 14th of August, 1967 is what everybody who was interested in pirate radio and jingles in those days will always remember that date. Very shortly afterwards, Radio 1 started. I think it was the 1st of September, I'm not quite sure, but certainly it was in September of 1967. So Pirates closed down, Caroline's kind of continuing, but Radio London always kept turned down, and Radio 1 started.